Ladies and fictional men, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you know, hi, I'm Kit. This is my second attempt at filming this video, and if it doesn't work, I am going to cry. So, I'm just gonna get started. When I was younger, I was obsessed with a certain branch of Mattel dolls, and if you don't know who Mattel are you living under a rock? In the most polite way possible. Mattel is the toy company that are the makers of Barbie, and they literally had a film. I think Barbie came out last year. Anyway, the branch I'm specifically talking about is Monster High. Let's have a very brief history lesson. Welcome to Monster High 101, taught by me. So Mattel created Monster High way back in 2010, but I believe they first started planning it in 2009. So in my research it said 2010, so I'm just going to go with that. And they were designed by famous toy designer Garrett Sander. And then for World of Monster High, much like its predecessor Barbie, it went from the dolls to shows / films, and then even stationery, clothes, bedding, posters, magazines. You think it, that was probably a Monster High version of it. So I thought, why not travel back to the past when I was a little kid, so year 6, year 7, so that was like 10, 11 years old, and recommend books to the characters of Monster High. However, there are so many characters from Monster High, so I've only picked 5. That's 10. 5. Which are Cleo, Claudine, Dracula, Frankie, and Spectra. And yeah. If you see me looking this way, my laptop's here. Let's start with the one and the only Cleo Denaro, because let's be honest, if I didn't put her first, I feel like she would put a curse on me. But anyway, before I go too much off script, Cleo, as you can probably tell by her name, she is the daughter of the Mummy, which makes her Monster High's version of Cleopatra. So this version of Cleo, I will only be talking about Generation 1, because that is the Monster High that I know. I don't really know Gen 3 because they reset the timeline. Anyway, this version of Cleo is vain, spoiled, and lazy. However, this does not mean she is not loyal to her friends, because she will do anything for her friends and even her family and anyone she deems important to her. Her friends being the other characters I am going to be talking about in this video, and obviously others, because again, the World of Monster High is gigantic. Her enemy, I believe, is Toralei, but pretty much the main, the core Monster High friendship group does not really like Toralei. Anyway, now Cleo's boyfriend is Deuce Gordon, which I think is actually pretty funny, because Deuce Gordon is the son of Medusa and also has her power, so he can turn things to stone, so he always wears sunglasses. And he is the complete opposite of Cleo. He is nice, he is not spoiled, he's, I believe, joint captain with Claude of the basketball team, but I can't remember what they call it in Monster High. And Cleo is also the captain of the cheerleading squad, I believe, aka cheerleading. I can't quite remember what their respective sports are called in Monster High, because they use, for example, ghouls instead of girls, and they use guys instead of Paris. Anyway, in my humble opinion, I believe that Cleo and Deuce have the best song in Monster High history, well, / in the musicals. So there is Bjork, which I believe is literally called, not Scooby-Doo, Monster High Bjork. It Can't Be Over, or This Can't Be Over. I will insert a clip now.
Sorry, it's over. This can't be over. Sorry, it's over. This can't be over.
So I recommend Twisted Games by Anna Hong, and the main reason for this is, I don't know, I just feel like it does, and it is a hear me out, and I will explain. So Twisted Games is kind of a Cleo and Deuce reverse, so this is Grumpy X Sunshine, where for guys, so in this case Reese Larson, chef's kiss, one of the best book boyfriends out there that I've read. He's up there with Her Souls to Take trilogy, and also Josh from Lights Out. Yeah, so he's for Grumpy, and then Bridget is for Sunshine, whereas in the Cleo and Deuce situation, Deuce, I would say, is for Sunshine, and Cleo is the Grumpy. Anyway, stoic, broody, and arrogant, elite bodyguard Reese Larson has two rules: protect his clients at all costs and do not become emotionally involved ever. He has never once been tempted to break those rules until I'll hold it here. Bridget von Ashberg, a princess with a hidden fire that reduces his rules to ash. Day by day she breaks down his defences. He swore on oath to protect her, but it's not enough. She must be his princess, his forbidden fruit, his every depraved fantasy. Regal, strong-willed, and bound by chains of duty, Princess Bridget dreams of freedom to live and love as she chooses. But when her brother abdicates, aka gives up the crown, she's faced with the prospect of a loveless political marriage and a throne she never wanted. As she navigates the intricacies and treacheries of her new role, she must also hide her desire for a man she can't have, her bodyguard, her protector, her ultimate ruin. Unexpected, unforbidden, theirs is love that could destroy a kingdom and doom them both. Just reading for blood makes me want to read this again. Obviously, minus the word broody, I feel like Cleo and Reese are one and the same, give or take, and Deuce is more like Princess Bridget. For both of them being extremely protective over their friends, which comes into play throughout the Twisted series, particularly with Bridget. She even threatens, like, fucking Alex, which I think is funny. Or was it Jules? Anyway. Yeah. Obviously, and they are extremely head over heels in love with their partner. However, in Cleo and Deuce's relationship, I feel like it's less showy. And there's even, in This Can't Be Over, Deuce is very insecure due to the fact that Cleo is a princess. And there's a arranged marriage in New York, bit of a spoiler. And because he's not royal, he feels like he isn't worth Cleo. So Deuce breaks up with her. Similar thing happens in this book. How that really hurt. Claudine Wolfe, as you can probably tell, much like Cleo, you can tell who her parentage is. And Claudine is the daughter of the werewolf. So depending on which Claudine you're talking about, she either has no siblings. I've seen something that says 5, but I've also seen something that has 3. Whereas for for Claudine I know only has 3, so that's all I'm going to talk about today. 2 older, I will put photos of them here. Claudia and Claude, and 1 younger one, Howleen. I will also include a photo of her here. We see Claude a lot in Gen 1 as he is dating Claudine's best friend, Dracula, who I will talk about later. Claudia we meet in Flight's camera action, and Howleen we see in a few episodes of the show. However, we see her for most in the film 13 Wishes, since she is the film's protagonist. Much like Cleo, I did struggle with picking a book for Claudine. A lot of time it is because I can't imagine these characters reading. Claudine, I would say she's more likely to read a magazine about fashion. Cleo, I feel like she's more likely to read Vogue purely because of the rich aesthetic of it. And because of her love of fashion, I was originally going to recommend Claudine Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. And if you know Claudine, she's very into fashion. And in Twisted Lies, the main character. I've forgotten her name and it's really annoying me. Stella, that's her name. She's a influencer and also starts up her own fashion brand. However, I decided to go with a different one in the Twisted series, and that is Twisted Hate by Anna Hong. And that is because I feel like Jules and Claudine are very, very similar. Here we go. Gorgeous, cocky, and fast on his way to becoming a hotshot doctor, Josh Chen has never met a woman he couldn't charm, except for Jules Ambrose. The beautiful redhead has been a thorn in his side since they met, but she also consumes his thoughts in a way no woman ever has. When their animosity explodes into one unforgettable night, he proposes a solution that will get her out of his system once and for all. An enemies with benefits arrangement with simple rules. No jealousy, no strings attached, and no absolutely falling in love. Outgoing and ambitious, Jules Ambrose is a former party girl who's focused on one thing: passing the bar exam. The last thing she needs is to get involved with a doctor who puts the sufferer in insufferable, no matter how good looking he is. But the more she gets to know him, the more she realises there's more than meets the eye to the man she's hated for so long. Her best friend's brother, her nemesis, and her only salvation. Now that I'm reading the blurb, I feel like this is a very, very loose recommendation, because best friend's brother, that's Dracula and Claude, that's their trope. 2, Claudine doesn't really do love, like, throughout the thing. I think it's in the romance film, I can't remember which one it is. Dracula literally secretly signs Claudine up for speed dating. Anyway, in Gen 1, Claudine is described as bold, opinionated, and fiercely loyal, which I believe describes Jules in a nutshell. The next person, well, Ghoul in this case, is my favourite, and I feel like it's very, very obvious because I'm more smiley, I'm more giggly, and yeah, which is actually very ironic because this character's colour scheme is pink. Essentially, this poster here had a bit more black, and it's this character, Dracula, and as you can tell by her name, she is the daughter of Dracula. However, she is the adoptive daughter of Dracula, and here's a little bit of her history, which I personally think is actually very interesting, even more interesting than the Spectres, who I will mention in a little bit. So Dracula was born to Gaius and Camille, both of which died when Dracula was very young. Gaius died in battle, whereas Dracula's mum Camille died from the plague, and so Dracula took her in, adopted her, and to protect her from the plague and from dying, he turned her into a vampire. And then Dracula decided to be a vegetarian, which is actually very, very important to her character. And I think it's so cute, and she has a little pet bat, and she just wears a little pink outfit, and I think it's adorable. I would argue that this monster is all about love. Is this opinion purely based on her film Monster High, Why Do Girls Fall in Love? Yes. Which, the film, as you can tell by the poster, is very Valentine's Day. Which is actually true, it's all about Valentine's Day. And that is because it's also her birthday. Yes, Dracula was born on February 14th, coincidentally the same day as my sister. However, due to love being a key role in her character, like, it's very important. She's such a romantic, she's very naive. How do I describe her? I would say googly egg, and if you know me, it's like a little cute thing who's very sunshiny, very innocent. I would say that's Dracula. And due to it being her character, and her character just romantic, Dracula, she loves romance. I felt like I could pretty much recommend her any romance. However, I decided to go with Flip the Script by Lila Lee, which was actually, did I read it? No, I must have read it last year. One of my favourites. So this is the blurb. The first rule of watching K-dramas: never fall in love with the second lead. Hannah knows this. She's been consuming K-dramas her whole life, and now she's finally living out her dream in Seoul, South Korea, playing a lead role in a buzzy new TV show, all while dating her co-star K-pop heartthrob Brian Yoon. Yet underneath the glistening facade, the truth is much more complicated. Her relationship with Brian is a publicity stunt and comes with a strict contract specifically designed to drum up interest. But when a few ship members fall, the producers add another lead actress to create a love triangle on the show. And it's not just any actress. Hannah's new rival is none other than Minji Park, her former best friend and crush. When they compete for Brian's affections on screen, Hannah and Minji fall in love behind the scenes. Or is it Minhee? Probably Minhee. But when dating in secret soon becomes impossible, they find themselves on the brink of a huge scandal that might end their careers. In this Simon joyous novel, author Lila Lee delivers a tender romance between two brave girls who decide that when the script isn't working, it's time to rewrite it themselves. And I love this book so much. The reason as to why I chose this book was because in the book, the main character and her love interest have to go against their surroundings, being in the acting world of South Korea, which is extremely straight, and obviously they're both queer, and they both battle against it so they can love as freely as straight couples can. And if you've seen the film Where the Girls Fall in Love, you know Claudine's brother, mentioned him previously, literally fights for their love after a character called Valentine. Yes, he's the one that created Valentine's Day and named it after himself. After Valentine's puts a spell on Dracula, making her fall in love with him, and Claude creates this little memory box for, like, there's a deflated ball, which makes sense. It sounds bad, but it's such a cute scene. I love the film, which I believe goes hands in hand with this book. So the next person, or ghoul again, I would argue is the main character of Monster High / the poster child, if you will. And that is Frankie Stein. Who is the daughter of Frankenstein? Not the doctor, for Monster, which, if you know me, that everyone calls the monster Frankenstein really annoys me, because the monster does not have a name. It is the doctor with a name. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that fully. I get into it, I believe, a while ago. I did a video where I did Frankenstein versus Dracula. Very obvious which one I prefer. But I will not be going into the whole thing. I kind of did, but, you know. Anyway, due to her being 16 years old in Monster High, well, she's not years old, she's actually days old, which kind of confuses me because she's forever 16. Anyway, she's the youngest and arguably not necessarily as naive as Dracula, but she's naive, she's quite innocent, she doesn't know the world, and she hasn't fully come into herself yet and hasn't learned to accept herself yet, which is why I picked the book Fat Witch Summer, which I will just put a photo of the cover here. I don't own a copy, and that is because I won a giveaway where I won the audiobook. Here is the blurb. I had to get it off of Goodreads, so I'm just going to turn this way and read it. 16-year-old Flash doesn't enchant eyeliner over her lids or clear her acne with magic. She is plus size, but she doesn't hate what she sees in the mirror. That's the realm of Osmara, a slim and elegant glamour witch. When Flash unexpectedly breaks a mirror with her mind, she discovers she has a knack for magic and will receive one of the 3 sanctioned gifts: glamour, growth, or sight. The only problem is that mothers choose the gifts, and Osmara is convinced that the gift of glamour will fix her daughter's looks. When Flash fails to persuade Osmara to accept her as she is, a trio of cool witches who call themselves Balloons offer her an out. Their leader, fiery and charismatic Cressida, recruits Flash for a round trip to New Salem University, where the girls plan to steal their own gifts. As Flash crosses her magical 13 States of America. As Mara, hot on her heels, she discovers bewitched diners, haunted tourist traps, and a secret about the gifts that will change the 13 states forever. In the book, the main character makes new friends after not having any for so long, which is what Frankie does in Monster High. And also learns to accept herself, because she's not insecure fully, but and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, she doesn't like revealing herself. Whereas as the book goes on, she kind of gets used to the idea of like wearing a swimsuit. She won't like wear a swimsuit or a bikini, which isn't an issue. Like, I didn't wear a bikini for so long. Now I don't care which one I wear. And I would argue this is exactly Frankie until now in the Monster High timeline. Because they've just gone in Gen 3, they've kind of gone for Frankie is like, for sort of Frankie that's brand new, does not know anything sort of thing. She needs to learn everything, sort of. I feel like that's a very bad description of Frankie. If you know Gen 3 Monster High, you know what I mean. The last monster, I actually struggled a lot to narrow down and pick, and that is because I was stuck between Laguna Blue, Abby Bonneville, and Spectra. Wondergeist. Spectra actually has multiple last names, but I'm just going with Wondergeist. Because at one point, all three of these characters were a part of the main group. However, due to Laguna fading into the background and Abby only appearing / coming in every now and then, I chose to go with Spectra, who is a ghost. And is the character, the fandom, know barely anything about. So she's the most mysterious and most interesting character, but now I know Dracula's backstory. Like, I know she's adopted by Dracula. I'm not interested in Dracula's. Imagine origin films of all the monsters, all the main monsters. I would love that. I own my whole full backstory. Sorry, I very aggressively pointed at you. Yeah. So we know nothing about Spectra's past, and that is because she's very secretive. Obviously, the only thing we know is because she's a ghost, she was a human at some point, and due to her outfit, I believe it's like forgotten the era that people believe she was born in. However, we find out something like that big about Spectra in the film Haunted. Now, Spectra is a gossip, which goes against her in the film I have just mentioned. So, again, Haunted. Where we learn, again, a tiny incy bit about her past, and that is she used to go to a school, I've completely forgotten the name, that is entirely for ghosts, for different types, and such, but later transferred to Monster High, which is a film for all kinds of monsters, not just ghosts. And due to the events of the film, I don't really want to go into it and spoil, she renames her gossip blog to the Gazette. Don't know why I struggle so much to pronounce that. And vows to only publish the truth from now on. So I felt as if I had to recommend her a female-centered mystery. And if you know me well, you know exactly what book I'm going to recommend. And this is the only monster whose book I knew like that. I knew exactly what book I was going to recommend to her. And it's, again, one of my favourites. I don't shut up about it if I have a chance. They're also filming season 2. And I'm so excited! Good Girl Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is specifically the first one. And this cover is the cover for the show. So, yeah. Here is the blog. Also, can we just look at it? I love it so much. The little snapshots of the show. Anyway. A closed case. A grade A student who won't let it go. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Singh. The police know he did it. Everyone in town knows he did it. But having grown up in the same small town that's consumed by the murder, Pippa Fitzmaurice isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as the topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? Also, yes, that's Emma Myers. Anyone that's wondering. So, not only do I feel as if Pip and Spectra are similar, but they both have blogs where they talk about their chosen topics. Spectra being a gossip and news, while Pip is the form of a podcast and obviously talks about true crime. That is all my recommendations for this video. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below. Again, don't forget to comment down below what videos you want me to do questions, and then I'll happily do a Q&A video. Also, if you've seen this far in the video, comment down the ghost emoji. Also, give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and press the subscribe button and the notification bell so then I get a notification every single time I upload a brand new video.